Hello, scholars, and welcome back. Welcome to Peak Flicks Reading and Writing with Miss Holloman. Today is our 10th day together. Scholars, I hope you're ready. I hope you're ready for an excellent day of teaching and learning. Let's get started. So, scholars, our mentor text that we will be using today, we're continuing with whales. We're learning about whales. And, scholars, I'm just going to get out my little highlighter. Thank you. So, yesterday, scholars, we learned about we learned that we can infer the importance of a nonfiction text. Today, we're going to learn and understand the purpose of a table of contents as an organizational tool. So let's read the reading objective together. I can understand the purpose of the table of contents as an organizational tool. And here is our anchor chart, scholars. We're going to use the table of contents that's in our book as a reference to help us understand why it's so important for an author to organize the information and put it in a table of contents, okay? So here, scholars, today, scholars, we will understand the purpose of the table of contents as an organizational tool. It's a tool that many authors use because it helps the reader. It helps the reader know where to find information. Table of contents. So, scholars, you should have the book at home. I have it on the screen, and I also have a copy here with me. So, get your copy out and turn to the table of contents. And if you look, we can look, and it says on the move right here. We know if we turn to page 4, we're going to find information about what? On the move. So let's turn to page 4. On the move. So here, the author specifically gave it the heading on the move because this page is talking about how animals travel from one region to habitat, and that's called migration. So they're on the move, and they do this to find food and also to find a mate. Now, scholars, we're not reading the book in its entirety. We're looking specifically for the headings. So now, scholars, we should be on page 8. And here the author has it titled Wondrous Whales. And the author titles it Wondrous Whales because the author is going to give us some really wonderful information about whales. And if you look right here, it says sperm whales are amazing creatures. They are the largest toothed predator on the planet. Males are larger than females. Males weigh up to 50 tons and grow up to 60 feet long. That's not just big, scholars, but that's what? Huge. So now, scholars, let's turn to page 16, and it's called Need to Lead. Need to lead. And on this page, scholars, the author talks about the female whale and how she travels with her family, the group called a pod, and how pods are led by older females. She guides the whales to the best feeding ground. So the female whale leads the pod for the women and her family. The males usually leave the pod between the ages of 4 and 21. And they, the largest and the oldest male, tend to swim alone. So who leads when we talk about our sperm whales? We know that the female whale leads and takes her family with her babies. And the older male, they usually tend to kind of swim alone. So the next page that we're going to, scholars, is going to be page 22. What a feast. So just think, when they talk about what a feast, what do you think we're going to talk about? What a feast. So here the author has this heading, what a feast, to share with us what the sperm whale likes to eat. So we've learned that the sperm whale loves squid and they eat octopus as well as fish. So the author was very intentional when he said feast because we can make a connection. When we think about feasts, we're thinking about food and the feast that we might have with our families at Thanksgiving, Christmas time, 4th of July, Juneteenth. So we know that the author is talking about food. Deep sea divers. We're actually on page 24. And here the author has the title Deep Sea Diver because whales can dive very well. It says, time to dive for dinner. Sperm whales dive deeper than any other whale. They can dive more than 9,000 feet. So the author wants us to know that it's very important for the whales to be deep divers because they dive for what? They're looking for food. So they're excellent divers. So now, scholars, we're going to turn to page 28 and we're going to talk about wee whales. Wee whales. That is the heading here. And the author has the heading wee whales because the author talks about the baby whales. And the author informs us that the baby whales drink milk from its mom. Okay, and baby whales are called what? We've learned that. Calves. Absolutely. So the next page we're going to is page 32. So here the author was extremely intentional, scholars. The author titled this 10 Cool Things About Sperm Whales. The author wants us to know 10 cool things about whales. And say like you didn't want to read the whole book, you can just turn to page 32 and get a glimpse of cool things about whales. And the author was kind enough to number that, show a picture so we can get a visual so we can see, and provide a little information about it as well. Now here we are on page 34 and the author talks about whale talks. So what do you think the author is going to tell us? How whales communicate. Sperm whales talk to each other by making clicking sounds. These sounds are also called echolocation. Whales use echolocations for 3 purposes. Number 1, to find their way in the deep, dark ocean. Number 2, to locate food. And number 3, to find their young on the surface of the water. So the next page, scholars, we're going to turn to is page 36. Deadly danger. Now, one of the things that the author wants us to know is that a whale can get into a fight. And usually he gets into a fight with a squid when he's trying to eat the squid. So it's important for us to know that it's not that easy for whales to just eat squids. Squids will battle with a whale, and sometimes you will see different marks or scars on a whale. That is usually an indication that the whale has had a altercation with a squid. I wouldn't want to be there to see that. So the next page that we're turning to is page 44. What can you do? What can you do? The author titles What Can You Do is because we've learned by reading this text before that there were some people who wanted to harm whales and were treating whales very nicely. And so we want to protect whales. So what can we do? So the author provides information for us that we can become proactive in supporting whales. Also, the author wants us to keep our environment clean, keep our ocean clean, so we can help sperm whales. Now, scholars, you're going to turn to page 46. Glossary. And here the author provided a glossary. A glossary gives us definitions, and the author also provided pictures to help us. Let's go to page 48, index. Here's an index. And so we've learned previously that if we turn to page 21, we would see the word Antarctica. So now, scholars, what you are about to do is I want you to pause this video for how many minutes? You already know, 5 minutes. Great. I want you to get your book baggie. I want you to get your pencil, your writing journal, and I need you to come back in 5. So I'll be right here waiting for you. Okay? Only 5 minutes, scholars. Welcome back. So now we're getting ready to transition into writing. So scholars are writing objective. I can add a table of contents to my writing to help organize my topics. Scholars, today we will add a table of contents to our writing to help organize our topics. Now, we've learned that it's important to, as a writer, it's important to be organized so the reader can follow what you're writing. So here, scholars, let me think of a topic. So I know that I enjoy writing about whales. You can actually write about whatever you want to write. You can continue your writing from yesterday, just add on to, and that may be the easiest thing to do. And you can write about spiders. You can write about whales. You can write about dolphins. You can write about sharks. You can write about whatever you want to write. The only thing I'm really asking scholars is that it's nonfiction. And then we have to ask ourselves the question, how can I take all the information I learned and create a table of contents? So put on your thinking caps and think of the topic you want to write about. Now, scholars, let me think of a topic. I already know I like writing about whales. I have learned a lot of information about whales. So Miss Holloman is going to write whales. The question is, how can I take all the information I learned and create a table of contents? Well, first, think about what you want your reader to know. So I want my reader to know that food is important to whales. I want my reader to know that whales can dive extremely deep. I want my reader to know that whales can what? Oh, they're enormous. That's what I want my readers to know. So second of all, get your thoughts on paper. So that means what you're going to do is I'm going to get my paper out, my writing journal, and I'm just going to start writing. And I'm going to label my headings. And then third, organize it by creating a table of contents. So here's an example, scholars. Your turn, table of contents. Now, if you wanted to write about something else, it doesn't have to be whales. It could be dogs. It could be cats. You would create a table of contents. Then you would do an introduction to what you're writing about. And then you would write what you want to write about. So for an example, if AJ wanted to write about dogs, he would write his introduction. And then he would tell us on page 2 what dogs do. On page 4, what dogs eat. And on page 6, what dogs look like. So super awesome, scholars. So now it's your turn. Off you go, scholars. Be the best writer that you can be. Remember that you were born for greatness. No one can steal your dream. Have a super awesome, amazing day of writing. I will see you tomorrow. Bye, scholars.